my mind is just starting to get blown because I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be on the stage and I'm going to be asked questions and there's the audience. And I was like, holy cow, like this is going to happen.
I would say the average person that watches my content has some familiarity with manifestation, but could you break it down to like second grade level of what is it and how do you practically do it? And then we can chat about some of the other big manifestations that you've created and even where you're going from here.
Yeah, so the book, The Secret, the movie, The Secret is pretty good intro. It talks about it, but I don't remember that movie incorporating the emotions. When you think about something and you visualize it, which I believe The Secret did heavily talk about, they forgot the third most important aspect, which are the emotions. Because when you do your vision board, what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to put the things up there, right? You can do whatever you want if you're religious or non-religious, prayer, whatnot. But the most important thing is you have to visualize that these things were accomplished at the end of the year. So on my vision board, it says, 2023 goals. And I look at it and I say, thank you very much for my 1958 convertible Impala that I got at a low price and blah, blah, blah. That was one of the things that manifested this year, right?
Yes.
So, and I visualized myself, Kat, I visualized myself getting in the car, shutting the door and putting the hands on the steering wheel.
Right.
So, and not only that, but it was the emotion of how did it feel running my hand along the side of the car? What did it feel? Mm-hmm. So I would say it's very three basic things. Someone has to, A, do what? They have to pick something that they want to focus on, right? That they want to manifest. B, you have to incorporate your what? Emotionally thinking about it, like how does it feel, right? Your feelings. So you're thinking about it, you're feeling it. And the third aspect is you're visualizing it. So you got those three going on. But the fourth thing too, which is very important, which I didn't talk about yet, is gratitude, right? So gratitude is massive. And that's the thing, the last thing that on my vision board, I have thank you, muito obrigado, all these words, of thanks, because you have to give thanks after you have visualized it. So you visualize it, you feel it emotionally, you're there, it's the end of the year, you've gotten this thing or whatever that you're trying to do, and then you give thanks. Mm-hmm. So that's, I think, a lot of things that we forget to give thanks about what we have. I'll even stand outside sometimes and I'm looking at the sunset. I'm like, wow, it's a beautiful sunset. And then I give thanks that I have the eyes to see a beautiful sunset. Wow. Or I'm feeling down on myself and I'm just, my life's not going according to how I want it. I'm not Brad Pitt yet or not George Clooney. And then all of a sudden, like I see, and literally this happens a lot, I'll see somebody like in their little mobile wheelchair and they have no legs and they're on the sidewalk. And I'm like, holy cow, thank you so much for my healthy body. Thank you for my strength, whatever, So kind of like those four things, especially gratitude is huge.
Yeah.
I've been able to manifest some really cool stuff in my life. I think I told you about the Steve Harvey story.
Yeah, I love this story because I think a couple other pieces that you didn't mention directly, but you did indirectly, was also having the desire and taking the actions. And I think this story will be perfect to illuminate, what does this look like? What does it look like in real life to manifest something that you desire?
So you brought up a good point. You obviously have to desire something that you want to manifest, right? It's also the fuel that you put behind it, right? The fuel of the hard work, the fuel of the visualization, the fuel of the feeling of the emotion, the fuel of the gratitude, all these things are like a big concoction. Mm-hmm. And that's what helps, I think, to propel you to what you want to achieve. So once upon a time, I was in California visiting a friend. I thought to myself, I've always wanted to do a motion picture tour. I love watching the making of movies. I always have. A long time ago, I signed up for this really goofy place here in Arizona. It's called Star Maker. It was like, they'll help you be in commercials and modeling and whatever. And one time I got on Channel 3, right? And what I was doing is I was holding a It was like a man purse, and all my friends that ended up seeing it, especially my brother, just gave me heck, right? Nice purse, Ray. That was great, you know. They just handed me different things. Okay, walk out with this, and later on, I'm like, what is this, you know? So, so anyways, I remember that energy. I always felt how it was in front of a camera, and it was kind of a cool feeling. I liked it. And so anytime I watch movies, I'm always very attracted to the making of the movie. That fascinates me. I love it. So I was in California. I'm just doing my thing on Tinder, swiping left and right. And I thought to myself, you know what? I've got nothing to do. My friend's working all day. I'm going to sign up for motion picture tour. So I signed up for Sony Picture Tour, which used to be Paramount. I watched, you know, we went in the different sets. Here's Jeopardy. Here's Queen Latifah's, you know, daytime talk show set. Look at all these different things. I just felt so engulfed in the energy. I was like, this is awesome. I'd love to do something like this. Like I literally was just in my head, putting it out there saying, I really would like to do something like this. That evening, as I was checking to see who I matched with on Tinder, there was a girl that I matched with. And she worked for the A&E network. And I was reading her profile and I wrote to her and I said, oh, I said, you have a really cool job. I said, that's so cool. And she said, yeah, I like what I do. And she said, it's a lot of fun. And she said, have you ever been on TV before? And I said, yeah, once, but really was nothing. And she said, well, and she said, I'm doing scouting for a show. And she said, would you be interested to come on down and to do like a, you know, an interview? I was like, sure. I'm like, oh, of course, you know. So I went down there and everything went fantastic. And she told me, hey, she said, next week, we want to have you come down. You're going to be on the Millionaire Matchmaker show. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not a millionaire, but that's awesome. You're going to match me with one sweet, you know? So I was on that show. I was on the Millionaire Matchmaker twice, 2 different episodes. And then the same lady that was with A&E Network, she changed and she opened up her own talent scout or own talent agency, right? Whatever you want to call it. And so she called me up and she said, hey, and she said, we've got this show. You know who Steve Harvey is? I said, yeah, I know who Steve Harvey is. She's like, oh, he's got this dating show. And, you know, are you interested? I'm like, yeah, sure. So I went on Steve Harvey's dating show once. And it was me and 9 other guys. I didn't win the date. Went on a second time. It was me and 9 other guys. I didn't win the date. Third time, same thing. And I was like, this sucks, you know? It was fun to be there and to goof around inside of the studio and watch Steve talking to Smokey Robinsons. And I'm just chatting with all the guys here. But I really wanted to win. I really wanted to be on this dating thing. So I got a call again, like 2 weeks later, and they're like, hey, you were great. We want to have you come out again. I'm like, okay. They're like, but it's a different format. I said, what's it called? I think it was called Dating Pool or something. They're like, well, what you have to do is it's only going to be you, or it'll only be 3 guys on stage with Steve and the girl. And then there's going to be a couch backstage with the other guys. But at least there's a better chance of you being on there. And I was like, okay, great. So what I did actually is and I'm trying to remember because I think so what I did is I sat at home and I had 2 weeks before I was going to be on this show again. So I sat at home every day. I sat in my room. I'll never forget. I sat on my room. I closed my eyes and I visualized. I visualized myself going up on stage. I visualized that I want to be on the farthest chair away from Steve so I could sit directly across from Steve and the girl. And I visualized myself where I was sitting in the chair, visualized myself winning the date. And you know, that was, I just kept doing it over and over and over again, visualize how it would feel and everything. So the day of, I'm there, I'm a little nervous, right? Talking to everybody, having a good time in the back. And finally I said, okay, we're going to line you guys up, get ready. And I was like, okay. So everybody starts putting on their suit jacket and everything. And the lady that was one of the staff, she said, Ray, she said, come here. And I said, what? And she goes, you're going to be the first one out. And I was like, wait, what? You know, and I knew what that meant, because if they marched us all out and they continue to march us out straight, I was going to be one of the first ones there, which means first one on stage, which means I was going to go on stage. And I was like, whoa. So they did that. They marched us out. We were snaking around behind the back of the studio. There's the audience. Steve's out there talking away the crowd. And my mind is just starting to get blown. So I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be on the stage and I'm going to be asked questions. And there's the audience. And I was like, holy cow, like this is going to happen. So one of Steve's assistants was just looking at me. And the funny thing is in the back of my head, I was thinking, but I'm not going to be sitting where I wanted to sit. I wanted to sit on the edge, right? Mm-hmm. It's not going to happen. And so his assistant walks up to me and he looks at me and says, come here. I said, what? He goes, come here. And he takes me out of the line. I was like, oh no, I'm not even going to be on the stage now. I was like, shoot. So he takes the two guys in front of me and he moves them up and he said, here, and he put me in the third position. Now I was super blown. I was like, holy cow, this is what I've been visualizing. This is what's going to happen. And then the other staffers said to all the guys behind me, all right, you guys follow me. We're going to have you sit backstage on the couch. And they're like, oh man, you know? So when Steve announces the dating pool and we get out there and he announces the girl, and the girl had some friend that was in the in 90210. So all I kept thinking about was, wow, I'm here, I'm on stage, and I visualize this. So at the very end of the segment, and I was super nervous, by the way, Steve turns to the girl and he says, all right, you know, Dana, who did you pick? And she said, I picked Ray. And he goes, all right, you know, so everyone's clapping, whatnot. So I go over, give her a hug, shake her friend's hand. And then I look at Steve, and Steve turns to me and he said, I had you the whole time. And I said, excuse me? He goes, I had you picked the whole time. Look, he showed me his cue card and he had my name on it. I was like, wow, I didn't even know what to say. My mind was just so blown because I visualized this and then it happened, you know? So that was crazy. That was crazy. And it's funny because we remember these things, but then I think sometimes we forget to practice these things, right?